وذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, and thank you for joining us for Signs of the Hour. If you remember yesterday, we were speaking about Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and we began early on. We weren't speaking about the emergence of Ya'juj and Ma'juj at the time of Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam. We were talking about when the early days when Dhul Qarnayn trapped Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And if you remember, we said that Dhul Qarnayn was a righteous king. We know his story as a result of the kuffar of Quraysh they reached out to the Jews trying to get some difficult questions to ask the Prophet ﷺ just to stump him, just for the sake of stumping him. And Nabi ﷺ, basically the answer came in the form of Surah Al-Kahf, a great surah that every Muslim is encouraged to recite every single Friday. I always tell people, if the Quraysh, and by the way, they go to Medina, right? They go to the Jews of Medina. And that's like, a journey. And if they knew that as a result of this journey, we're going to get a surah that until the Day of Judgment will be recited by, millions of Muslims every Friday, they would have probably not gone on that journey. But, they plan, they think they know what's going on, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, is the best of all planners. So we mentioned Dhul Qarnayn and a righteous king, and then the Qur'an mentions that it's going to mention some of his stories. قُلْ سَأَتْلُ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْهُ ذِكْرًا. Some of his story, and that's why the story doesn't start from the beginning, but it starts kind of from the middle, and we went with him on 3 journeys. The first one was a journey to the west, and then there was a journey to the east, or could have been the northeast, or very high up north, and then a third journey close to that area as well, where he found a people لا يكادون يفقهون شيئا, a people that could barely understand, he could barely communicate with them. And that's where we stopped, right? But we mentioned that حتى إذا بلغ بين السدين. We explained why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically said Saddain. We said just from these words we understand that it is now once he closes off this area, it'll be like a dam. There's absolutely no other way out. And if it just said Jabalain, there would be a way out. But a sad is a dam in Arabic. So this is completely sealed off. Now, good, I'm trying to pick up exactly where we left off here. Yeah. So these people who could barely communicate, what did they finally, by the way, some explanations and narration, some tafsir say that their language was so rare that it took them a long time to find a translator that spoke their language. And that translator himself, his language was so rare that it took a while to find a translator that spoke his language. Some mentioned that there were 100 translators between Dhul Qarnayn and these people. So he said, hello, translate into 100 languages, then finally it comes back. But these are not that strong, the narration. The point is that it was difficult to communicate with them. Alright? So, what did they say? Verse 94. قالوا يا ذا القرنين. They said, O Dhul Qarnayn, إن يأجوج ومأجوج مفسدون في الأرض. Indeed, Ya'juj and Ma'juj are great corrupters in the land. They wreak havoc and create a lot of problems. فهل نجعل لك خرجا. So can we assign some money for you على أن تجعل بيننا وبينهم سدا, that you put a barrier between us and them. Alright? Now, so who are Ya'juj and Ma'juj? What are they talking about? Who are these people? Now we've got choices. They're either angels, or they're jinn, or they're human beings. Or someone says, what if they're a fourth kind? Alright? Now, what on earth does that mean? What is a fourth kind? Have you ever heard of a fourth kind? No. So if you've never heard of a fourth kind, and you don't have evidence to a fourth kind, then why should we consider it? Right? Doesn't make any sense. Some people now, they think that because it's issues of the unseen, you can get super creative and say whatever you want. Oh, it's not jinn or humans or angels, it's something else. We've never heard of something else. Why would it be something else then? It's like less probable. Or because it's the unseen, we can make up whatever we want. Oh, these will be microchips inserted into people. or these Ya'juj and Ma'juj will be aliens from outer space, or they'll be zombies, or they'll be mish'ar. So it's not a green light to just be creative and be cute and say whatever you want. That's not the point of this. All right. So because there is no such thing, we're not going to consider a fourth kind. Now, therefore, it has to be one of these three. As for angels, there's no way, right? There is no way that they're angels. In Islam, we don't have the concept of fallen angels like Christians do. And what's a fallen angel? He's an angel who was good, and then for whatever reason, he becomes bad. Wires cross, kida, and he becomes bad, and he comes down and starts being a devil and being evil. The angels, لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم. In the Qur'an, Allah says that they do not disobey when He commands them. So they can never disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They can never turn bad. They're always righteous and pure beings. So there's no way that it's an angel or there are a bunch of angels. Why would angels be on earth? Why would they be wreaking havoc? Why would they come out and kill people? That's completely out of the question. What if they say, okay, Ya'juj and Ma'juj are from the jinn? And our answer again is absolutely no way. Why not? Well, we have a lot of evidence and a lot of arguments that would indicate there's no way they would be from the jinn. Number one, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described later on that they will have weapons. Yeah? The hadith says, يستوقد المؤمنون المؤمن من رماح. The hadith says that the believers will use it as a fuel, وقود يعني. They'll use it as a fuel, من رماحهم, for years from their spears. So from the wood from their spears, the believers will use it for fuel for years. We're actually coming to the narration in a bit. I can't remember it exactly right now. But point is, they have weapons. And jinn, why would they need weapons? And they've got the strongest weapon, they're invisible. You know, like if you could turn invisible, would you need a weapon to beat someone up, for example? Yeah, you're invisible, they can't get you. That's one. Number two, the Prophet ﷺ described that when they emerge, they will drink all of the lake of Tabariya. That's proof that they can't be jinn. Why? Because jinn, they actually share our food and our drink. But does it physically decrease? When is the last time you left a cup of water? Then you went to get something, you came back and it was halfway done. You're like, oh, that jinn must be thirsty today. If they drink from it, you would never sense that. You would never see it physically decrease. But the lake of Tabariya physically decreases. Can they be jinn? And the answer is no way. Next argument. You do not stop the jinn with a wall. And it's just simple logic, right? You don't stop the jinn with a wall. So Dhul Qarnayn built this dam, this barrier, and that stopped the jinn. You don't stop the jinn. And they have access not just to buildings but to you. As the Prophet ﷺ said, يَجْرِ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمْ مَجْرَ الدَّمِ, يعني he can travel just like blood coursing through your veins. Also, angels generally protect you from the jinn anyways. It's not this jinn are going to come out and kill all of humanity and the angels are not going to do anything about that. The other thing is that you wouldn't see the jinn. Because in the hadith, the believers will come out and they'll see Ya'juj and Ma'juj dead, scattered all over the earth, dead everywhere, dead bodies. We can't see jinn. True or false? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Qur'an that إِنَّهُ يَرَاكُمْ هُوَ وَقَبِيلُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا تَرَوْنَهُمْ. That He sees you, He and His followers from where you do not see them. Now what's something else that's interesting? So we have in the Qur'an proof that we don't see jinn. We have the hadith evidence that we will see, that humans will see Ya'juj and Ma'juj, dead bodies scattered everywhere. Another interesting thing. The Prophet ﷺ described the faces, the appearance of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Now here's something interesting. Do you know of a hadith describing the faces of the jinn? No. Why not? Because you don't see them. What's the value of describing something you can't see? So the Prophet ﷺ described Ya'juj and Ma'juj because they're humans and we will see them, or whoever is alive at that time will see them. So that means they are not from the jinn. There's also something else that's interesting. There's not a single report of them ever killing a jinn. Because remember, they're angry at the world and they kill every human being, and then they say, let's kill the ones in the heavens. But they never try to kill jinns. If there were jinns And they went to the point where they try to kill their creator, astaghfirullah. They're not going to try to kill the jinn, but they never try because they're humans. They can't see jinn and they never think of that. Anyways, so then what are they? We've only got one option left. They are humans, completely normal as far as physical appearance, human beings. There are a few differences between us and them. We're going to get to that. They are humans from the offspring of Yafith ibn Nuh. Because Nuh, as we mentioned many times before, is known by the scholars as Adam al-Thani, the second Adam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Qur'an, ذُرِّيَّةَ مَنْ حَمَلْنَا مَعَ نُوحٍ, the offspring of those we carried, meaning on the ark, with Nuh. Because if everyone on earth drowns, and then everyone else comes from the offspring of Nuh, then he is the second Adam in that sense. So, and then some reports, some scholars mention that the other believers couldn't have children. They all became sterile out of fear of the experience and the flood. So only through the offspring of Nuh alayhi salam do the people continue on the earth. The point is that the children of Nuh alayhi salam, they were Ham and Sam and Yafith and Canaan. Canaan is widely believed to be the one that drowned during the flood. So we've got Ham and we've got Sam, from which the Arabs and the Jews, those who were Semitic, came. And then we said Canaan is the one drowned, and then Yafith, from which came Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Or maybe it's not necessarily that Ya'juj and Ma'juj themselves, but the Turk type of people. Now, a Turk here is what is referred to in English as the Turkic people. Not Turkish, from the country Turkey, but Turkic people, which includes people from Uzbekistan, people from like the Uyghurs, from Azerbaijan, from Turkey itself. All these are Turkic people. Mongolians also under this category. So these are the Turkic people. Now, what's something interesting about the etymology of the word Turk is that some scholars believe they got that name لأنهم تُرِكُوا. Turiku, what does turiku mean? Yani tatruk or turiku means they were left behind or left outside of something. So they were the same type and same race of people as Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Dhul Qarnayn comes and traps Ya'juj and Ma'juj behind the barrier, and the rest were left, turiku, left outside of the barrier. That's one guess as to, or one theory behind how Turk, the name Turk came. أنهم تُرِكُوا, outside of the barrier. They were left outside of the barrier. Okay, so then how are they different and why are they so many? One explanation is that they reproduced faster than others, and the other explanation is that they live longer than others. If you live longer, if your lifespan is considerably longer, then you will, as you live longer, you will breed and have more offspring, more children. There's a narration from Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, إن الرجل من يأجوج ومأجوج ليعمر حتى يرى ألفا من أحفاده. In another narration, ألفا من ذريته. So it says, indeed a man from Ya'juj and Ma'juj will live so long that he will see 1,000 from his grandchildren. Another narration, 1,000 from his offspring. Now, so if they live long enough to see 1,000 grandchildren, that's incredible. Or 1,000 of their own offspring, that's huge. Now, Ibn Hibban, rahimahullah, he says that these ahadith, a lot of them are weak, but some of them have some form of strength or so. There's another one narrated, and it's attributed to Ibn Mas'ud. He says, or it's mentioned, إن يأجوج ومأجوج أقل ما يترك أحدهم يعني the least one of them will leave behind لصلبه ألفا من الذرية. The least one of them will leave behind will be 1,000 offspring. So if each one leaves 1,000 children before dying, you see how their numbers can get so huge. Alright, so that's what I was talking about when I said there is a difference between us and them. Now, as far as any other physical difference, they're all based upon weak narrations. Okay, and these are all weak. But one description says their ears are so large that if they came to sleep, they would spread one ear like on like a blanket, as a mattress type thing. They would spread one ear on the ground and then cover themselves with the other ear. ear هو ولا شراع يا أخي? Is it are these ears or sails that they would put one down on the ground and then cover themselves with the other one? Weak. They attribute to Ibn Abbas different narrations mentioning them being of different sizes, small sizes, a handspan, 2 handspans, 3 handspans. This is a handspan. So they're this big, or this big, or this big. These are all false narrations. If they were this big, and even this big, that's nothing. Like they couldn't kill anyone on earth. You'd be walking to the market, come back from the grocery store trying to put your groceries in your car, and millions of Ya'juj and Ma'juj all over the parking lot. And you just kick them, get out of my way. They're this big, what are they going to do? So, they're not authentic. That they have fangs, not authentic. Claws, not authentic. They have thick hair that protects them from the heat and from the cold, also not true. All strange but not authentic. And Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, he rejected all these sayings and said they have no evidence. And since they are from Yafith ibn Nuh, they are human beings just like us, except Allah decreed they either live longer or reproduce faster, and that's why, or that explains why their numbers were so huge. What is authentic then? These were all the false narrations about the big ears, the fangs, and the small sizes. What's authentic? We have an authentic narration about their appearance. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عراض الوجوه. عراض الوجوه. They have wide faces. صغار العيون. They have small eyes. And that's why wide faces, small eyes, it looks like, as many people say, physically the description looks like the Mongolians, right? We're not saying they're Mongolians, saying that's what the physical description looks like. Then the Prophet says, صهب الشعاف. صهب الشعاف. So what does that mean? شعفة الجبل أعلاه. If we say شعفة, شعاف is plural of شعفة. شعفة الجبل is أعلاه, the highest point, the summit, the tip of a mountain, that's the شعفة. Now humma صهب الشعاف, that some people translated that as they have red hair. But the sha'fa is the top, the top of something. So if they have red tops, that could mean that they have red hair. Or it could also mean that they're wearing something where the top of their heads are red. So it could be that they have red hats on, red helmets on, but the visual is if you see Ya'juj and Ma'juj coming and running down the mountains and everything, you would see them red top. Either because of a helmet or a hat, or because of their hair color, something, but the top is red. If we go literally here, sha'af, that means on top they're red. It doesn't have to be their hair. Some people said their hair is reddish brown, reddish black. It doesn't have to be. Alright? وَمِن كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ. And they come down from every mound, every elevated area. So you can picture them just running down quickly. So many of them, millions of them coming down the hills and mountains, just running down like that. So, those were their descriptions, alright? And it shows that they were human beings. And the fact that they were described also shows that they were not jinn, because we can't see them anyways, and clearly not angels. So they are a people, a normal human people, that will wreak havoc and destruction on the earth. Now, if you want a further and a strong proof that they're human beings, even though there shouldn't be any doubt, there's no reason for us to think that they're not human beings, but here's a very, very powerful proof. This is the hadith of Ba'thun Nar from Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. On the Day of Judgment, alright? It's the Day of Judgment. يقول الله تعالى يا آدم فيقول لبيك وسعديك والخير في يديك. This is on the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, Ya Adam, He'll call Adam, and Adam will say, here I am at your service, and all good is in your hands. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, أخرج بعث النار. Basically, send out or bring out all the ones who are to be sent to the hellfire. So Adam says, وَمَا بَعْثُ النَّارِ. And who are those that are to be sent to the hellfire? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, مِن كُلِّ أَلْفٍ, from every 1,000, تِسْعَةٍ وَتِسْعِينَ, from every 1,999. Those are the ones that go to the hellfire. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, at that point, the Prophet says, at that point, the young, their hair will turn gray. And every pregnant female will abort. and the people will appear intoxicated even though they are not intoxicated. But the punishment of Allah is severe. And when the companions heard that, they said, Ya Rasulullah, and which of us will be that one that will be saved? And the Prophet then tells them, he said, be of good cheer. For there will be one man from amongst you and 1,000 from Ya'juj and Ma'juj. You see? Now, I remember this hadith when we were younger. One of our friends heard it, and they said, out of every 1,999 are going into the hellfire. He said, what if on the day of judgment I'm standing and it's in my 1,000 group, it's me and there's Abu Bakr. He's like, that's bad. Like, of course, and if you see Abu Bakr in your group, you're not going to think, well, it's between me and him. No, Habib. But the good news is that the rest are from Ya'juj and Ma'juj. That means their numbers are immense. Their numbers are immense. Okay. But how is this very definitive proof that they're human beings? Adam a.s. was asked to bring out those who are going to go to the hellfire. Why? Because Adam is the father of all humans, and therefore Ya'juj and Ma'juj are humans. Their name is it's not an Arabic name, right? Ya'juj and Ma'juj. They said it's taken from Ajij and Nar, يعني التلهب, the blazing of a fire. Also, Ujaj al-Milh, as we see in the Qur'an, وَهَذَا مِلْحٌ Ujaj, something like extremely salty. Also, to run fast. These are the root meanings of this name, right? And sometimes just from the name you could see that it's not praiseworthy, right? The blazing of the fire, or something extremely salty, or something running, and so you see that that it indicates something not good there. What was their crime? Inna Ya'juj wa Ma'juj mufsiduna fil ard. They wreak havoc in the land. They create mischief. So what was their crime? So first of all, they didn't say the details are not in the ayah, right, or in the Qur'an. Wahb ibn Munabbih, the great scholar rahimahullah, he thinks that their crime was homosexuality. Ata al-Khurasani rahimahullah, he said they kill people, like they would murder. Muqatil, the mufassir of the Qur'an rahimahullah, he said they eat people. But what is most common is that they would come out of this area in the spring upon these people who are speaking to Dhul Qarnayn. They would come out upon them, and they would take anything green, yani anything of value, anything ripe, anything growing, any vegetation, they would completely take it and go back into their area. So these people that Dhul Qarnayn met, they said, فَهَلْ نَجْعَلْ لَكَ خَرَجًا عَلَىٰ أَن تَجْعَلَ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمْ سَدًّا عَفْوًا. Sadd is, like we said, the barrier, or a dam here with no other way out. So they're saying, how about we pay you so that you can put a barrier between us and them. Now what's interesting, the scholars said these people, they also weren't very intelligent. And this is part of their argument, that a king comes to them, and this king, he owns everything between the east and the west. Now they don't know that, they don't know the size of his kingdom, but they see the size of his, for lack of a better term, his procession. Like he's coming with thousands of servants and goats and maids and soldiers and horses, and then these people, be they farmers or whatever simple people they are, they offer to pay this great king some money if you just build a barrier between us and him and them. Not very smart, right? So so what happened? So then he begins to build, right, the barrier with them or for them. And what's interesting is that he asks them, he says, I don't need your money, but he asked them to assist, all right? He asked them to assist him in the building of the barrier. Now, what's smart about that? He has the manpower, he has soldiers, he can build it, but it's wiser and better for him as a wise leader to involve the people in the process. And that's why sometimes, the government or those who are in power, they have the ability. Like for example, they'll say, we want the citizens to donate to, the poor, or in Palestine, or, whatever. So many places now afflicted, right? We want to donate for Syria or for Iraq. We want the population to come out and give donations. And we're trying to, let's just make up a number here, we're trying to raise 10 million. So then the people of the nation will be like, the government doesn't have 10 million? What, every time they need something they call on us, you give the 10 million? No, there's good to involve the population like that. Instead of just writing that check, it's good for people to pay, it's good for people to feel like they're part of the ummah, that they're doing something. So it's wiser here. And he has the manpower, he could have had them do it, but he said no. But help me physically. And then he began to demand certain things, or ask for certain things. And we're going to talk about that more next time, because we're almost out of time here, and if we start the construction, we're not really going to finish it. But he asked for Zubar al-Hadid. Zubar, plural of Zubra, which is a big chunk like this. So, and this is an area that had a lot of iron, and there were big chunks of iron like this. So he gets that, piles that up, and then they light that, and then they melt it. Then they bring molten copper, and then they put that on top. You see some very physical and very specific. For those who say, the barrier is figurative. Right? The barrier is figurative. What are the chunks of iron then? And you tell me, be creative as you like, be figurative, yellow. What are the chunks of iron? What's the molten copper? And why copper? Not even brass, not any other metal, not bronze, copper specifically. Why? Right? قَالَ انفُخُوا, blow. Why is he saying blow then? If it's figurative, what does it mean figuratively to blow on a wall made of figurative molten, figurative iron and figurative molten copper? What does that mean when they say it's figurative? And why is it saddain and not jabalain if it's just figurative? What's the difference between sad and jabal figuratively? If they're saying it's not a real barrier. You know why some people say it's not a real barrier? Because number one, they can't understand how these millions of people are behind the barrier. Number one, where could that be? It has to be a big area. Actually, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Okay? That's why people just... It's basic, like you can just Google stuff. It's not even like, you don't have to be a genius anymore. You can Google and pretend to be a genius. They could have Googled. All of the people on earth right now, every living being, 7 billion, if we put them all right next to each other, how big would that area be? Google that. Not big at all. So Ya'juj and Ma'juj don't have to be in another complete continent. Alright? And they don't have to be, the earth is hollow, so they're the hollow earth theory and they're living in the hollow part. It doesn't have to go that far. But most people reject the barrier and say it's figurative simply because they can't understand how that huge number would be on earth and we can't find them. Number two, why can't we find the barrier? Because we explored the whole earth. We haven't. And then how could they survive without sunlight? There are very good logical explanations for every single one of those questions. You will find those out tomorrow's episode, inshallah. Join us as we discuss all these other things about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Jazakumullah khairan for attentive listening. Sallallahu mubarak ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.